Hi, I'm Mike, and today I'm joined by my friend John Hornsby, and we're driving his 1971 Oldsmobile Cutlass, starting right now.
Man, this is a 71 Cutlass S, two-door sport coupe. You know, they had Cutlass Supremes, they had a bare bones Cutlass, but this one was kind of a fastback, kind of a hot rodded model.
Yeah.
Not a 442.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to. Oh, is it a 442? No, it's got a 350, but it's a big upgrade from the six-cylinder I had in my truck.
Right,
So
yeah.
this is kind of fits more of the high school hot rod that I was looking for. But 71 Olds Cutlass S.
It's a hot rod, but it's got class and kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost got a female hot rod feel
does.
about it.
And that was part of the allure with my mom. I mean, mom was a very classy lady, very classy, but still had some southern style to her.
Yeah.
And down home authenticity, and had a lot of power. She was very meek. That's a good word. I mean, this car is meek. It's classy. It's got some beautiful style lines to it. It's not in the total muscle car category.
It's not like an angry car.
No, but it can do it if it needs to.
Right.
So it's kind of like my mom was. That's what reminded me of it. So I mean, you could dress up and go to a meeting at the country club, or you could go run somebody down on Friday night. So it's
Right.
kind of kind of both end.
That's an interesting way to describe Oldsmobile.
Yeah, right.
So we were talking earlier about how this car is kind of the closest you can get to going back in time for a moment. Just kind of the way things were back then, the feeling. This car's interior in particular really kind of takes you there.
Yeah.
Even with, you've got some of the stuff stripped out, but
Right.
the way the dash looks is just, it's cool, man.
It's
Yeah.
got a vibe to it. They don't make it like this anymore. Yeah, you're right. There's just something about it, and you see those little logos and those little emblems that take you back, and
Yeah,
the
no,
mind's
it
a
does.
pretty powerful
Yeah,
thing.
it does.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, man, you walked down the parking lot going into school. You had some Malibus, Chevelles, a couple of GTOs for the rich kids.
Okay. Yeah.
The really rich kids had a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. They would have something like that.
Right.
But then
The eagle
occasionally,
on, the full bird on the
right,
Yeah.
the big full bird and the feather band on the cowboy hat. And all that.
right.
But there were a group of guys that I rodeoed with, and a lot of them were gearheads, and their dads were mechanics, and they had more older model stuff, which I think was easier to work on. I mean,
Right.
and it was funner to work on than some of the stuff from the late '70s and early '80s. It got pretty weird at that time.
Yeah.
So these were pretty popular.
I first sat in this car back in Lamar's backyard when I bought it. I sat in it. It looked even worse than it does now, if you can imagine that. But I immediately, man, I was back going to Little League practice. Mom was picking me up from school. I mean, everything about the design and the style and the font of the lettering and everything just instantly took me back to a pretty good place, man. Pretty good
So
place.
driving this car, John was nice enough to let me drive it a little bit. It is definitely responsive. It's funny that it's kind of a wet, cold morning here in Texas. If you give it all the gas, you're just going to slip all over the place. So it's kind of a full driving experience. I think it's fun. You have to really drive this car. So you got to pay attention to what you're doing. The steering, the brakes are, you said mushy, but I think they're just, there's a strong pedal. You really, a small person might have trouble getting enough power into that
you're
thing.
right.
But they work. The brakes work good. They you got to be paying attention. They're not touch brakes.
Well, Kim laughs all the time because if I drive Merle for a few days and then I get in her Lincoln, I throw it through the front dash.
I bet you do. I bet you.
So this was the original Rocket 350 that came in the car. I got it running and drove it for about 3 or 4 months. And as I started putting headers on it and doing some of the aftermarket enhancements, I thought, I'm gonna pull this motor and get it rebuilt. So I did, and I pulled it, tore it all the way down to the every nut bolt and piston ring. And then I took it to Jerry Jakey, old man engine builder here in town, and he rebuilt the whole thing for me and gave it back to me. And I brought it home in the back of my truck, and Kim and I and Hank put it in.
Oh, you did it yourself? Dropped it in there?
Dropped it in myself, rehooked everything up, rewired everything. And Jerry asked me what I wanted to do with it, what I wanted out of this thing. I said, I want a daily driver, but I want it to be fun to drive. And he grinned and he said, I'll tell you what, I'll do stock. I'm not going to bore it out, but I'll hone it out good for you and clean it up. And he said, I'll put a little cam in it to make it fun. And then he put a Holly 770, which is not what came on this car. And then he put an MSD electronic ignition on it and a distributor, and it runs so good.
Is the feeling that remodeling cars is really expensive.
Yeah.
And so the ability to they want to do it, but to have the space and a garage and the resources to not just have something that is really something they want to do, but it's just a pile of metal sitting in the garage. I think that's a challenge.
It is a challenge. It's a real challenge. Some people want to do it, and then there's a giant gap in between wanting to do it and being able to do it, and having time to do it, and having money to do it, and know how to do it. Yeah, there's a lot in between. Hank asked me, he said, Dad, it's been a while since we've done a project. You ever thought about doing another one? I said, yeah, now that you guys are out of the house and, I got a little bit more time on my hands, I'd love to do another car. What would it be, Dad? I said, 68 to 72 Olds Cutlass 2-door hardtop sport coupe. He goes, wow, that didn't take long.
Sienna Brown,
and the color didn't really matter. The style and what I was looking for mattered. And of course, our price range, and in the Hornsby price range, we always say the deader the better, because and plus the fact of the matter is I like bringing them back to life. That's part of the pride. Everybody's looking for something different. I was looking for something we could literally bring from death back to life because I like that process of working with it. So Hank found it on Craigslist. We went and looked at it. It was in the backyard of a gentleman over by the AT&T Center on the southeast side of town. And we went in his backyard, and it was kind of buried back there in the weeds, and I fell in love with it immediately.
How much did you pay for it?
I think I got him down to about $1,100.
Oh, nice.
And I popped the hood. There was the original motor there, clean title. It was in the kind of shape I was looking for to work on and restore. And I gave him $1,100, and we had it hauled home that afternoon. Got it running and drove it for about 3 months, but originally just got the motor going. But then brakes, bearings, hubs, brake lines, fuel system was one of the first things I did because I learned my lesson on Old Joe about being stuck on the side of the road with a bad fuel system. But fuel system was all redone new. So really from kind of stem to stern, 4-core radiator, then what I did was I had it running and drove it for a while, and I started wanting to kind of put some headers on it, kind of do some of the stuff I wanted to do in high school.
Yeah.
And I got underneath it. I said, before I get too far, I want to pull this motor and just make sure. So I pulled it and tore it apart and sent it off to an old engine builder here in town named Jerry Jenke, and he rebuilt it for me, and then gave it back to me, and I brought it home in the back of my truck and dropped it in one evening, got it all rewired, and fired it up, and it runs like a scalded dog, man.
Yeah, it does.
I do want to tell you, you were talking about the pride that I have and the intentionality behind the way I'm doing this is I like the rough look. I like the fact that she's not finished. I like the fact that it may be a while. I may never finish her, I don't know. But she runs fantastic. And what I like is being underestimated on the road. I was passed by a Jetta, an old beat-up POS Jetta the other day on I-35 going to the office. And this guy passed, I was going about 70, and he passed me and cut right in front of me and flipped me off.
Oh, nice.
And what was I doing? So I ran him down. He didn't expect that I could do that. He thought I was just an old piece of junk that was in the fast lane.
Right.
So I ran him down, and I didn't return the favor. I just waved at him and gave him a blessing for the day. For me, everybody's in this for something different. People buy old cars like this to flip them and make a buck. And I kind of joke around that I wasn't trying to flip a buck. And this buck kind of got flipped in the process. I mean, it's a little bit cliche, but the fact is that I was looking for something a few years ago, like I typically am, deeper. And when I sat in this car, it took me there. And so I said, man, my mom's here. She died a long time ago. There's something here that's pulling me back. And so I said, I fell in love with this thing like I did old Joe a long time ago, and brought her home and started tearing into her. I mean, when I sat in this car in that guy's backyard behind the AT&T Center, I was back at Little League practice. I was coming home from the neighborhood swimming pool. Mom was picking me up from elementary school. I mean, I was back there again, and apparently I needed to be there. And so the dark nights underneath this thing, and working in the quiet time, and busting old rusted parts loose. I mean, all of that for me is very therapeutic and very transformational. And so, Hank teases me. I'll tell you, Mike. Hank is my son is 30 years old, and will be this summer. And he's like, Dad, there's a lot more efficient ways to get this old stuff off here, man. We can torch it, we can impact it. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
And I said, Hank, I know that. I said, but I would miss what I'm after. I like working with old things to give them a chance to come loose. And when I do, that's what I'm looking for in this thing. It's not about how fast I can get it done. I like to do everything else fast.
Right.
But this is different. It's restoration. It restores me while I'm restoring it. So
that's pretty powerful, John.
Yeah. Well, not everybody gets that, but I do.
Yeah. Let's see. So, John, do you have any idea how much horsepower this thing makes?
I don't.
No idea.
I didn't dyno
Haven't dynoed it?
And now it's an extra $200 to dyno it, and I didn't.
You think it's over 350?
I don't think so.
I feel like it could be.
I don't. I'm guessing 300 to
300.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Maybe-ish.
It definitely pulls.
It's got what I want.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I mean, I'm not going to set any records at the drag strip, but I mean,
Well,
it's got
you're
what I
keeping
want.
all the weight out. You took the back seat out too. So John has a book out. It's called Old Joe. You can find it in the link below, which I'll plug in. A place where you can buy it on Facebook. It's a parable of rust and renewal. It's about his old Chevy truck that he restored. And John, you've got a new book coming out?
Yeah, man. So God restored me while I was restoring that old truck, and God's doing it again with me inside this 71 Cutlass. So Merle, son, let's give this another try. It's coming out in April, so look forward to that, man. Thanks a lot for checking it out.
You bet. Thanks, John. Hey, thanks for watching. If you got something out of this video, would you click that like button? And for more videos, for car reviews and videos like this one, if you could follow my channel, Car Mike. And if you've got a car or truck in the South Texas area you'd like me to drive and tell your story, you can email me at carmiketravels@gmail.com. Thanks, John.
Check him out. Thank you, Mike.
Bless us throughout the day with our video. In Jesus' name, amen.
So look like the old man that you brought along with you.
A little bit. So this is John. I picked him up on the side of the road. He's kind of hungry. We'll get you a meal.
Thank you.
So John, what is this pedal down here?
That's the dimmer switch.
Is it really?
The brights.
Oh, nice.
And it works, but the bright ones are dimmer than the regular ones.
Yeah,
it
I'm gonna
dims
have
it
to
down.
take a picture of those. Yeah.